Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. As expected, reactions now trail resolutions from Kaduna on Monday at the emergency meeting held by the 19 northern governors and the traditional rulers, particularly as regards their position on rotational presidency. The latest is coming from the Middle Belt Forum, describing their position as incomprehensible in the face of, quote, 6 years of woeful performance by a northern president, end quote. And they went ahead to say that at the National Executive Committee meeting some time ago in Nasarawa State, they had called for power rotation among 3 regions of the North, Middle Belt, and the South. And it's getting quite interesting now. We're continuing our conversation on the power rotation controversy. I'm joined this morning by Liborous Oshoma, lawyer and public affairs analyst, and joining us via Zoom is Yemi Mapaderun, strategy and governance expert. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for finding time to come. I'll begin with Liborous in the studio. Particularly of concern is the trend of such conversations in election year. I mean, if you're conversant with election year, you know that just 1 or 2 years we'll begin to have this kind of conversations. You're not surprised, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm certainly not surprised. I didn't start today. You know, my friend Shetima Yerima flew this kite as far back as, was it 2018 or so, insisting that counted from the years of Obasanjo, you know, and all of that, and said, oh, the North must also take its turn and complete those years that Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, and you know, stayed. So I think he counted 13 years then, and so said that Buhari's 8 years and Yar'Adua's 2 years did not amount to 13 years, and so, you know, all of those jargons and incomprehensible permutations. For me, I would have expected that what we should be talking about now, first and foremost, even though it gives a sense of belonging where the presidents come from, like Obama's presidency, even though they didn't do anything special, extraordinary for the blacks, but it gave them a sense of belonging in the entity called America. Same way, Obasanjo's presidency didn't do anything for the average Ottoman. And I have not seen the extra benefit that the people of South got from Goodluck Jonathan, but it gives a sense of belonging that, yes, you still have competent people in this region, especially given the disastrous 6 years of the current administration. But that said, I think where the conversation ought to have kick-started from should be what the qualities of who the next president must be, not just, he's a retired general, you know, he frowns at corruption, he would fight insecurity.
We're going to get into that in a minute, particularly when we consider the issues of why this is important.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying the discussion should kickstart from that process, and then we can now begin to move into where this person come from. I agree. You know, you have people, you know, quality people from, you know, all part of the country, but I think this decision of the Northern Leaders Forum is divisive. You have insecurity ravaging the North as we speak now. I hardly hear them, you know, speak unanimously.
Well, to be fair to the Northern governors, this particular meeting in Kaduna had quite a number of issues on that resolution. It's just of concern that
yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. What I'm trying to say, if the issue on the top burner, was the issue of insecurity, I don't think the issue of rotational presidency would take this media space.
It was because
it wasn't. If you look at the resolution,
talking about if you look at presidency, just a minute, Mr. Liborous, is the fact that they mentioned the efforts of the federal government in fighting banditry and terrorism.
We're not talking about efforts. As we speak now, I was listening to the news this morning. Bandit raids an emir's palace. You know, last week bandits kidnap an emir. Even, you know, so bandits kidnap school children. that is so bad that schools are closed in some states. So it shouldn't be mentioning the efforts.
They talked about
what we're talking about.
Intelligence sharing amongst the governors.
Let me tell you.
I'm not a spokesperson for the northern governors, but the point I'm trying to clear for the sake of this national conversation is that when the governors met with the emirs and the chiefs in Kaduna, the only thing they talked about wasn't power rotation or
I agree with
tax.
you.
Before all of these issues, they had mentioned the security challenge.
I agree. As if you look at the resolution, go check that resolution. The insecurity was not on the top burner. It was not the number one item on the list. It should be. Secondly, if you remember during NSAS, these same northern elders met. Insecurity was number 9 on that list. NSAS became their problem. So what I'm trying to say is that we are all in this mess that we find ourselves today. So what we should be discussing, what any elder, any leader in Nigeria should be discussing today, should be the qualities of who would govern Nigeria come 2023 and what that person must possess before we begin to talk about where the person is from. Where the person is from is also very important, but we should also identify the fact that we found ourselves in a mess that we have never been in before since independence. So that life is so useless in Nigeria now that people are killed by like chickens, and that government will tell you, oh look, we can't name the sponsors, we can we are doing everything humanly possible. Next you hear the president will tell you, I will assure you. He keeps assuring us, and so I expect the president coming from that region, it is high time these northern leaders should call one of their own to say, look, you are demarcating us consistently. That should be the only issue for them now, not even where the president should come from.
Let me bring Yemi Mapaderun into this conversation, but just to again emphasize what I mentioned earlier, I have a copy of that resolution here with me. It indeed began with security updates from the region, observing the need for a sustained synergy and coordinated efforts between the federal and northern state governors. They also went ahead to talk about the issue with Boko Haram in the northeast, which was number 2 item on that particular document. The third item was talking about solar energy project. Long before they mentioned, I'm trying to look at it now, the 4th item talked about Northern State Governors Forum recommendations contained with their communities with a view of coming up with implementation strategies, long before they talked about what is now being popularized as their position on VAT.
After my colleague, I will read that first recommendation
just to clear that air. So, Mr. Mapaderun, talk to us about the implication of such conversation on the polity. There are many who are of the opinion that we'll have to talk, particularly when we see that, just like it is on the compass points, the North differs from the South on many issues. How important are these very difficult conversations on the quality of the polity, particularly ahead of an election year?
Well, good morning, Nifemi, and good morning, Liborous. Good morning, Nigerians, our viewers. I think to start with, we need to begin to elevate our commentaries on happenings in our country a little bit, more, and try to de-emphasize too much of emotion. I know emotions and sentiment are part of, life, but in doing that, we must also try to be fair and charitable. It is, in my view, incorrect or wrong to hold the northern governors responsible or accountable for how the media reported the outcome of their meeting. Like you have rightly tried to underscore in the studio there, a lot of issues were raised, by the northern governors. At least their resolutions or the communique issued at the end of the meeting reflected that it was a multifaceted subject meeting that they held. Having said that, coming back to the issue of rotational presidency, I read that communique and I did not see anywhere where the northern governors said they were against rotating the president to other parts of Nigeria. But somehow we seem to be overawed, or we seem to overplay some of the headlines that we see without really digging into the entire text and then putting it in context. Historically, no zone in Nigeria has ever single-handed produced the president of Nigeria. Recall that the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, contested 3 previous times before he won on his 4th try. And each time he contested against, southern candidates who beat him to the poll 3 times because his effort was concentrated in the north. And that gave rise to the, 12 million votes that, people mention, every now and then. But until he reached out to the south, he never won that election. The same thing can be said of all elections that we have had in this country. Have we forgotten so soon that President Goodluck Jonathan won a landslide presidential election against Atiku Abubakar and Ribadu in this country, both northerners? So for me, I don't want to vilify or demonize the northern governors in any case, because they were simply reacting to what their southern colleagues have said. And to be fair, if for any neutral, you will discover that as impolitic as the demand, because it was a demand by the southern governors, as impolitic as that demand sounded, the kind of response that the northern governors gave, for me, was more balanced and more fair. What they are saying is that they are not averse to the president of this country coming from any other part of this country. But you cannot make it as a demand that it's a right, it must happen. I think that is where the mistake is. And before now, I can count 3, 4 serving governors, 3, 4, 5 former governors, numerous senators from the north that have personally expressed their preference for a southern president in 2023. And I don't have on record any southern governor as an individual, as a person, not hiding under the Southern Governors Forum, coming out to push for Southern presidency. So I do not know when we are going to overcome, emotion in our public discourses. I said it some time ago when I was on TV in TVC studios that the demand of the Southern governors for me was impolitic. It was immature and it was misplaced in the sense that it is not the governors forum that chooses who the candidates of the political parties will be. It is the parties. And we know, even those of us who are not practicing politicians, we studied politics, we analyze politics, and we know that there is no place, no country, not even in Nigeria, where you demand presidency. In 1999, for instance, the 2 major presidential candidates were from the south, not just from the south, from the southwest. Nobody forced that down the throat of the entire country. Nobody did. The kind of noise we are hearing now, we're not there. The Afenifere, as strong as it was there, was not insisting, but it was pushing. You see, power is not served a la carte. You can push and negotiate your position. After all, an absolute minority in Barack Obama became
Mr. Mapaderun, and I'll be back with you shortly. But I'd like us to just put this conversation right on track and help the viewer understand precisely what we're talking about. I remember we spoke with our Kaduna State correspondent who covered that particular meeting on Monday. He did mention that prior to this emergency meeting, there have been some northern governors who have shown their support to the clamor of their southern counterparts, and that perhaps the issue they had with that meeting in Enugu was the choice of words that the next president must come from the south. You agree with the lobbying? Just a minute. You agree with the lobbying is part of politics? Is there anything wrong with that?
In Yaradua died 2010. You remember the issue of zoning or no zoning in PDP? That almost, at that time, it was almost a one-party state that almost tore the country apart. So let's not shy away from these issues. It is not the first time. Afenifere in 1999 didn't lobby. They demanded, it was a demand that at least to assuage the West over the ills meted out to them over the June 12 crisis, that this demand, it was one of the demands. So let's not begin to try to use West to curry things that are not there. Secondly, in 2011, just before the election, there was a call, a demand, even from the North also, that power must move. And then the issue, down came the issue of zoning or no zoning. Oh, is it in the APC constitution? In the PDP constitution? Because at that time also, we had a one-party state. And then came the issue of Goodluck Jonathan, and then that was partly what cost him that election, apart from the corruption issues, cost him that 2015 election. Look, power has resided too long in the South. The North has been shortchanged. It was a demand, clearly. And then if you also look at this resolution number 5, let's not also try to pander to words. Oh, that look, what they are saying is that this no one region can produce the president. It has to be 25% spread. It was the same response. This same response was the response the southern governors gave the northern governors during the time of Goodluck Jonathan contesting for election in 2015, when the issue of zoning or no zoning came up. The southern governors said, well, you know, you can't say it must go to the north because no one region must produce the president. So we understand politicians. We know when they are playing with West. We know when they also, you know, you make the statements look as if, look, I am not pro this, I'm not pro that. And then also, not too long ago, this statement also did not just come from the Middle Belt Forum. Pandef also condemned the stand of the PDP governors who said they had thrown their ticket open for, you know, to any of the zones. And the Pandef said, no, look, this issue of zoning or no zoning had at some point raised its ugly head sometimes in the past. And now there was an unwritten agreement. Power should rotate from the south to the north. And even though the Middle Belt Forum is saying no, it should be between the north, the Middle Belt, and the south. Then there is another group in the southeast that also had insisted that not having produced, you know, presidents for a long time in this history of this country, that it will also be equitable for power to shift to the southeast. So all of these are political statements made by political leaders, depending on the forum they find themselves. But my position, like I had said, is that the first step, and I also go back to the communique, we're talking about here the qualities. But I asked.
Just a minute, just to clarify again, you agree now that they didn't jump on the issue of power rotation in that communique?
No, I agree. I agree. Maybe what I concede. I am absolutely wrong. What I read was different from this particular one. And so, but that said, what I am saying is that you find situations where we are quick to talk about power rotating or power not rotating. Nobody's talking about the quality of the person who would occupy that office, considering the enormity, the enormous power that person wields. We also cannot shy away from the fact, this has nothing to do with sentiment. We also cannot shy away from the fact that as we speak, Nigeria is in a disastrous state, economically, security-wise. As I speak now, recently there were reports that a retired Rear Admiral was kidnapped in Lagos. I can no longer travel to Benin by road or from Benin to Ekpoma.
And there was a bank robbery in Osun State just yesterday.
Exactly. So yes, just recently also there was this news about NYC handbook, even though they denied it, but also there was some admission from them on some parts. You know, so when you have all of this across the federation, and then your security operatives is as if they are fighting internal war across board. The first thing that we should look at, and that's it's only here that government don't take responsibility. Government has never come out to apologize for all of these things. It's like people are dying like droves, and then you come, you say, oh, we appreciate the effort of the federal government. Which efforts?
Do you agree with Mr. Oshoma that perhaps we should begin from a different perspective? For instance, when I read the Middlebelt Forum publication yesterday, they made reference to the fact that you can't return the presidency to the North, according to them, without mincing words. Let me quote them precisely. They are saying that the position of the Northern Governors Forum is incomprehensible in the face of 6 years of woeful performance of a Northern president. The performance of a leader, is it a function of where he comes from? How did we get here?
I mean, absolutely not. You know, like I said a few weeks ago in your studios, ordinarily, I wouldn't bother about where the president or a leader comes from. But again, in nature, equity and fairness also may want to dictate that we do certain things that are not necessarily populist. Just because we have the numbers, we can ride roughshod over others. For inclusiveness, yes, I agree. And sincerely speaking, the reality on ground is that you cannot, even as a political pundit, beat your chest and say the body language of, for instance, the ruling party is that power should stay in the North. Absolutely not. As we speak, both the two major political parties in Nigeria are preparing for their conventions. And conventions is where they will appoint or elect officers of the party who will superintend over the primaries for 2023 elections. As of today, out of about 11 prospective candidates are aspiring to become the chairman of APC. Not one of those 11 is from the southern part of Nigeria. Not one. On the other hand, you have the PDP also preparing with about 6 potential candidates that you can see in the public domain that people are rooting for. And all of them are from the south. I begin to now wonder, these are the platforms that will throw up candidates for president in 2023. Why not take the battle to the party? You see, and this is where we need to be very careful, you know, trying to play to the gallery. Like I said at the beginning, no part of this country can produce the president of Nigeria unless, of course, we go into a kind of runoff election where absolute majority will count in case there is a tie. Having said that, it behoves on the governors. You see, I don't bother my head about what Northern Elders say. What Northern Elders Forum didn't support Buhari in 2015. They didn't support him in 2019. So those guys don't speak for the North. It is on record. They have never, ever supported Muhammadu Buhari, but he has won election twice as president. So, but for the political actors, especially the chief executives of state, right, it is important that what they say in the public domain is measured. They know as much as all of us know that you cannot use blackmail. Yes, blackmail can be a tool in politics, but there is a sense in which you use it and then it hurts. Let me give you another dimension to the entire story. How many of these governors uphold the principle of zoning in their states when it comes to governorship elections? So, for any serious politician in Nigeria who wants to be president, you will not find them canvassing this kind of argument. Because in politics, you have to reach out to everybody and, and all persons, all tendencies, you must reach out to them. So for me, I think it is unnecessarily hitting up the politics. And honestly speaking, while I agree in total with most of the resolutions of the southern governors.
Okay, we might have to get back to Mr. Mapaderun in the course of this conversation. But when the northern governors quoted a portion of the Constitution about how a president emerges, very accurate, but they didn't talk about how candidates emerge in parties, because that's also very important. As we speak now, there is no independent candidature. So you have talked about the sense of belonging.
Yes, it gives a sense of belonging.
It gives a sense of belonging. There's what we've heard about gentleman arrangement. Should we begin to think of the possibility of putting this into our constitution?
No, that would create a very big problem. See, look, let's be fair to ourselves. I really, I do not care where the president of Nigeria comes from, as long as he would provide the basic, governance to everybody, irrespective of tongue, tribe, sex, or race. I don't care. But you see, these things are consistently thrown up because once a governor comes from south, the tendency to develop his village first before any other place is there. So that's when the people feels, look, we have something. When the presidents come from somewhere, you see, during Goodluck Jonathan's tenure, it was almost as if Ijaw people were the only people from Niger Delta. And that's also, in fact, some of them insisted that, look, President Jonathan is not allowed to run. That he should, if he decides not to run, he shouldn't come back home. Not because the average man in Otuoke was benefiting the largest, but because a few people from that region. And it's the same thing with President Muhammad Buhari's presidency. As I speak to you, it is always very easy for us to say, oh, the Fulanis are getting everything. No. The average Fulani man's child is still being kidnapped. I went to Kaduna State recently, not too long ago. In fact, I had my heart on my hand to be able to go by road from Kano to Daura and Kaduna. The hunger in this place is still very, very, outrageous, despite producing the president. And so that's why when I hear people talk about these things, oh, we should have it as part of our law. No, all of this, that's what I'm telling you, that the political class, we do not matter in the reckoning. And that's why I still would condemn in total the resolution of the Northern Elders Forum about security. Yes, you have given you thanking the effort of the government so far and the rest. In fact, as I speak, why that resolution, that communique was being issued, kidnapping was going on somewhere, villages were being raided. So apart from resolutions and communique, what other effort are governors? I do not take away the governors and the local government chairmen from this. So that's why if you look at it, a conspiracy by the political class against the ordinary people. And so that's why for me, the conversation should start from when President Muhammad Buhari came to contest the election. Oh, yes, he's a general, is this. But nobody asked the question, where has he ever delivered a lecture before on how to fight corruption? So that we will say, yes, he has a blueprint. Where has he ever delivered a lecture on how to revive an economy that is going comatose? We knew at that time that the price of dollar was falling and that it was going to go deep down. But no, but he came, we started making excuses for him. And if care is not taken, that is what we will find ourselves falling into. Our governors have become so powerful. I call them emperors. They have become so powerful, they sit down and decide the fate of the entire Nigerians. And that's why, when they discuss this zoning, this power shift rotation and the rest, go and check those people who are agitating, jostling for this position. Either former governors, present ministers, and, present governors, also vying for vice presidency and the rest. It is about them. So for us as a people, what we should be asking, what are the competence, what are the credentials, what are you bringing to the table, what's the blueprint? You know, give us timeline so that when you come, we'll now begin to look at those issues and hold you responsible. But if you now say add it to the constitution, what it means, what it will mean is, you know, whether you have competent persons or not, at the end of the day, once it is turn of the South, just bring, let the powers that be, just bring somebody, and then...
We'll take a break now. When we return, perhaps we'll be looking at the kind of a person that should emerge as the next president of Nigeria. Stay with us and we'll be right back. Hello everyone. This morning we're talking about the power shift controversy and the dust raised by the Kaduna resolution by northern governors and traditional rulers isn't settled yet. Yemi Mapaderun, strategy and governance expert, joins us online. Liborous Oshoma is right here with me in the studio. It's some 61 years after independence, over 20 years of unbroken democratic rule. Precisely what do you think is responsible for the fact that we still cannot talk elections without talking about zoning?
Yeah, thank you. What's responsible is because of the bogus and system of government we operate, and the non-accountability that is associated with our democratic practice. There's this belief that once we have a carryover of this cultural belief of the king can do no wrong, a monarchy mentality. So once you are, you know, in a position of authority, you are accountable to nobody, and rather than serving, the people serves you. So once you get to that point, people will kill to pretend to want to serve you, and then you are confronted with hunger, deprivation, diseases. You are perpetually kept down. So you look at your leader as, you know, the savior, the messiah. So that's why election to some of these persons, it's about, look, it's my turn to get there and go and grab what I can grab. Nigeria is treated like a house that's about to collapse. So everybody that is given a government appointment, it's not held accountable. It is about go and get your own. That's why, Nifemi, I can tell you today, the moment you are appointed special advisor to special advisor to the special advisor to the president, you will get your village people, your schoolmates that you have not seen for years will take out paid advert to congratulate you, to celebrate you. And then you begin to get calls with our turn, oh, what do we do? There's so much hunger. There's so much lack of probity and accountability in the system. And that's why when it comes to election, people who should be encouraging transparency in election process are the ones that will insist that it shouldn't be transparent, because that's the only way they will continually remain relevant and continue to siphon from the national treasury, because nobody's accountable to. And then quickly, the rest of us also, who should be insisting that there should be accountability, will now begin to debate your thief is worse than my thief. So leave my thief, hold your thief. But meanwhile, we are the ones suffering. Do you know that the money that has been stolen by previous government and this government is enough to give us a semblance of Dubai in Nigeria?
We're going to open the phone lines in a short while, but let me hear Mr. Mapaderun out on this. Do you think that if Nigeria had let's say, a revolutionary leadership, someone who has been nationalistic, who did not only have the integrity but the capacity to cause true change, and I'm referring to not just this administration, but from way back since 1999, do you think we'll still be here so passionately discussing zoning?
Nigeria just missed the opportunities that we had in the past to cement our nationhood. In 1993, we had an MK Abiola that contested for president of this country. He won a landslide victory. He defeated Bashir Tofa in Kano. That's the hometown of Bashir Tofa. So, what that tells us is that it's not impossible to build Nigeria to a level where you come from and other sentiments will take the back seat. But we flubbed that chance. Again, in 1999, we also had a breakthrough. With some kind of consensus, we had the two major presidential candidates coming from a part of this country. That is to tell you that there is a willingness on the part of the people to build a nation. But we have a political leadership and a cultural orientation that seems to thrive on continuous division of this country.
Mr. Mapaderun, please hold that thought for a minute. Let's take Adeyemi's call from Ikorodu. Good morning, Adeyemi.
Hello.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. I beg to be part of the program that is going on.
Go ahead, please, with your contribution. You're live now.
I would want to differ with the two guests that are with you in the studio somehow. And I want to start with, I think it is totally preposterous for the northern governors and elders to say, to want to claim that they have absolute rights to the presidency of Nigeria. We have to look at Nigeria from one perspective, that Nigeria is the only existing, thoroughly heterogeneous society that remains in the world. If you want to say heterogeneous society in the real sense of it, all other heterogeneous societies are broken. It is only Nigeria that is remaining. So we have to protect Nigeria. The only way we can protect Nigeria is to begin to, allow the presidency to go around until a time when we have an understanding that everybody is happy with this country, and then a president can come from anywhere, everybody will be happy about it.
All right, thank you so much for
Nigeria
your contribution, Adeyemi. That's how much time you have. Mr. Mapaderun, you were talking about the fact that Nigerians have shown signs in the past of looking beyond regional and ethnic bias, but political leadership has been in the way. Precisely talk to us about how the people can hijack this process back.
Well, unfortunately, it's not possible for the people to hijack it. The only way that can happen will even result in bigger confusion. And so, because the people, historically, the masses of the people do not have the capacity, the wherewithal, and the resources to properly organize. And so there is always that elite in every society, be it heterogeneous or homogeneous. That one is a given. The people, 20% of the people will continue to provide leadership and direction for the remaining 80%.
Just a minute. Mr. Oshoma here thinks that the people indeed have the capacity to do that. Let's hear him out for a few minutes.
Let me look. That is it. No theory, no political theory supports that. If you are just looking at mere numbers, right, you might say, oh, the people are always more. But I tell you, at the end of the day, it is the elite that will present to you, even if you have 10 political parties in Nigeria that are strong, it is the elite that will decide on those 10. And then the people will only queue behind any of those 10. The people don't have the capacity to produce a candidate that they will all queue behind. That is a given, and it will be like that till eternity.
Let me hear his point of view out very quickly. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to disagree with that position, and it's been the lie that the political class had consistently thrown at the people and use it to discourage the people, that you don't have the capacity to. So don't even bother. We produce the person to you, and then you will choose from amongst us because you don't have the capacity. But I dare say that the people have the capacity. But because they have been consistently told that they don't have the capacity, they now believe that they don't have the capacity. How? One, we're debating electronic transmission or no electronic transmission. Even though constitutionally, INEC has the power to deploy any means deemed fit to conduct election. It's a constitutional provision. Now we are debating it. And then secondly, go and check the numbers. I've covered elections, monitored elections since 1999. Go and check the numbers. The numbers of actual registered voters vis-a-vis the number of actual voters in Nigeria. So when you are consistently told a lie that you do not have the capacity, it also discourages you. And then you hear this idea of, oh look, ballot boxes will be snatched, the people will shoot guns. Don't go.
But how do the people penetrate the political class to determine who emerges in the primary elections?
That's what I'm getting to. Let me give you an example. Recently, you had what you call the third force. But even though they came out very, very late, they did not believe also that they needed to key into the people. They believed in the numbers on Twitters than in the numbers on the ballot papers. So, but do you know, it is not the average Oshodi man that will come and produce a presidential candidate. What is needed is for him to also talk to his people. So if the numbers of registered voters, you know, to a very large extent, the number of actual voters get closer to the number of registered voters, you have more participants in the process. And so the more the people participate in the process, the more they'll be able to determine whoever governs them. But here, we are told you don't have the power, so don't bother. Look at what happened in Imo State. If the numbers that Hope Uzodinma presented at the tribunal, if those people had actually voted, do you think that Hope Uzodinma will bring those ballot papers that people are saying are fake to present at the tribunal? Because they would have been used up. So what you have here is you have a situation where number of registered voters on a polling unit 1,000. On the day of election, you have 100 actual voters.
Please hold
and
that
then 900 you know, unused ballot papers. That's where the manipulation comes place. That is why they are telling you they can't transmit the results electronically from the polling unit.
Let's take Sonny's call from Benin. Good morning, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If I may, good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you too.
Thank you very much. I want to say that I agree with your distinguished guest who have been airing his view about Nigerian issue for a very long time. I hope to see him one day in Benin to also come here and talk on the station where you left from.
Thank you.
One of the things I would like to remind Nigerians, especially the major players, is the fact that Nigeria have decided to practice what you call federal character. And if that is correct, and the North would decide what they want to do, what you are doing now is that you will make other people feel that they are not important and they are nobody. And that will lead to either disintegration, that will cause a whole lot of discouragement. We do not belong here. If we truly want all of us to unite, because God did not make a mistake of bringing the country together, we must continue to allow this federal character. It is not the right of the North, neither is the right of the West. But just to ensure that everybody have a stake in this matter, we must carry everybody along. If we will do that, you will see collaboration, you will see unity. If that is not done, you are creating anarchy, giving room for people to speculate and think that we're not supposed to be here.
All right.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to hear from you, Sonny. Thank you for making it short. Let's move on, gentlemen. I would appreciate that the next time you bring Mr. Mapaderun to the studio so that we can have a face-to-face conversation. But precisely, let's talk about the kind of leader that we should be looking out for, apart from whether the person is from the North or South. And I think that's the very important point that Mr. Oshoma made earlier, that perhaps that's even where we should have started from. Do you think that there are signs to look out for? What are the yardsticks that Nigerians, political parties inclusive, can begin to engage to be able to come up with the best of Nigerians leading Nigeria?
Is that question for me?
Yes, it is for you.
Okay, good. 30 seconds before I go into that. I'm happy that Liborous did not cite one example anywhere in the world of where the people presented their own candidates and voted for him.
I said not the man from Oshodi.
Ross Perot in the United States of America, as popular as Donald Trump is, he needed the platform of the Republicans to win election. No independent candidate will ever come near 10% of the vote in an American general election. So it's a comparative analysis that I have done. It's just not about Nigeria. Having said that, before you start asking what kind of a leader you want, the first place to start is what are the issues. For me, the major issue in Nigeria is that of forging a nation. We have failed repeatedly to forge a nation. We failed to consolidate on some of the gains that were made after the Civil War. And in 2021, that is why we're still talking about primordial sentiment. And so, when you have a leader that the people, or at least majority of the people, trust from diverse parts of Nigeria, then we can begin to move forward. All this noise about having an economic guru, having somebody who has a PhD, that is not supported by evidence in any part of the world, especially in Nigeria, where we seem to have an overbloated idea of what the president can do. I mean, I read former Governor Fashola's interview with this day, and I said, well, it might not be popular, but I can tell you factually that he has just laid it bare. You find a situation in Nigeria today where people clap for their local government chairman and hail them.
Okay.
Right? In fact, they join their local government chairmen and governors and senators and House of Reps members in abusing the president, thereby successfully diverting their attention from the low-hanging fruits which they should pluck. Now, like Fashola said, what is the state of our primary schools? I just read not long ago, a primary school collapsed in one of the southwest states. Is that the responsibility of the president, whoever that president is? And this is a warning. We should not have an overbloated expectation.
It's all right. Mr. Mapaderun, let me take Debo's call very quickly from Ikeja. Good morning, Debo.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I would like to contribute to the issue of...
Are you still there?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right, please go ahead. You have 1 minute.
I would like to disagree with one of your panels there. In 2015, I ran for Assembly, Lagos State. That was my first time dabbling into politics. Yes, and you would realize that the system is designed in a way where the masses really don't have a say, or even if you're talking about using the party structure, where you buy a form, you go for accreditation, you submit the screening, you go through the process. But guess what's going to happen? When it's time for you to meet the delegates, that's when you find out that there is not, the system is designed for you not to be able to compete. So when you're telling me that the masses can develop, we can have a voting system where the masses can choose a candidate and they can actually, their vote will really represent the people, I don't think we're there yet. Because the reality is that the elite controls the political structure. And the elites are the ones that will tell the people what to do. And as long as people are hungry, people will always compromise. And that's what I see.
I think you made your point.
In another 20, 30 years, we might.
Very clearly so. But Debo, thank you very much for your contribution. So I can hear you say,
I need to.
You agree that we're not there yet, but we can be there. How can we get there? Because we have very few minutes now.
Debo said we are not there yet. That means we can be there. Nobody is saying, I am not saying that, like I said before, I am not saying one man from Oshodi or one man from Alakuko will just come and then, nobody is saying that once you become an independent candidate, that makes you a better candidate. What I am saying is that the people can own the process. It talks about the delegate system. Who are these delegates? Those people that have been handpicked. But if you have a system where you have robust participation from the people, what we should be telling the people is that, it's not participate because it's skewed against you. It is that because it is skewed against you, majority of you should come out to participate so that if the political parties decide to front the wrong candidate, you tell them, go back. So what that means is this time, the political parties will know that, look, the people are now aware. A majority of them are participating.
You're saying that if a political party fields, an incompetent candidate,
yes,
how do they tell them to go back? By voting for another person?
Yes.
But what?
Take for example. Look at Edo State, for example.
Just a minute. How do you explain a situation where both candidates are
wrong, like we had in 2015?
I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm just saying
that's what
hypothetically.
because we are fixated on two major political parties. We are not even ready. We will wait. That's why we need, my job as an advocate is to consistently educate the ordinary man that it is your vote that made those two political parties major parties. It is your votes. So the moment you understand the importance of your votes, you can give it to whoever you want to give it to. It must not be that big man there. It is the vote that created these two parties.
And unfortunately,
at a point, PDP believed that they will rule this country for 60 years because consistently we gave them our vote. But the moment the people decided, no, we have a question with your candidate, but this one is not better, but we're to show you that we have a question with your candidate, we'll vote the other way. Just the same thing. It happened in Edo State. It is the people.
It's a good place to leave it. Unfortunately, data has shown that the actual vote cast has been perpetually lower,
very low
than the number of people who are accredited to vote. So a big thank you to my guest this morning, Yemi Mapaderun, strategy and governance expert. You know that we have to continue this conversation. We can't exhaust it all in 1 hour.
I agree to you, Yemi. I'll collect your number, I'll call you.
Liborous Oshoma, lawyer. You guys will continue the conversation over the call. Lawyer, public affairs analyst, thank you always for your time on the program.
My pleasure.
A big thank you to everyone for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with yet another conversation. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Do have a great day.